Minerals Council's definition of transformation is largely informed by the Mining Charter. And as you know, the Mining Charter is really all about redressing the imbalances of the past in mining, in the context of mining relating to the ownership of the mineral resources under the ground, so that black people can now own the mines themselves. So there's been this change of ownership from private individual to state custodianship, but which allowed black people to get into the sector. And it also covers other areas such as human resources, skills development, mine community development. So those various elements of the charter, that is also our definition of transformation. If you look at, for instance, look at the various elements, your BE ownership, the industry is sitting at about 39% BE ownership if you consider the continual consequences of past transactions. That is substantially above the 26% target, well, not so much the target, the minimum in the mining charter. So the industry has actually overachieved in that regard. Again, if you look at the 2010 Charter and employment equity, the targets were essentially 40% HDSA representation. We've exceeded those targets. So now the challenge is rather to be meeting the new targets in terms of the 2018 Mining Charter. Similarly, across a lot of the elements of the Mining Charter, I think the industry has actually done substantially well. However, and one really needs to point that out, that even in those areas, for instance, we've done well on the employment equity side, but we've still got to do a lot more in changing the gender component of mining. The Charters 1 and 2 were by design supporting and encouraging ownership by black entrepreneurs. They did talk about being broad-based, but they didn't really drive it that hard. So you've got now this preponderance of entrepreneurial ownership. So we should be improving on the broad-based ownership of communities and employees in terms of their ownership. On the human resources side, again, I think the big improvement that we have to make here is improving the representation of women. Women only make up 20% of the mining sector, certainly a lot more in the managerial positions. But if you go lower down and more technical, the more hard labor-related roles, you have an underrepresentation of women. On the skills development side, we did not meet the 5% of payroll target. We're at about 4.8, 4.9. We think as an industry, we should be exceeding that target. And then on mine community development, I think I've seen some fantastic work being done by mining companies, but we are looking to move from doing more infrastructure related projects to more projects where they're generating income and jobs, because that's what community members want. So that's where I think the improvement needs to be made when it comes to mine community development.